I'm Eric White with NJHFA, and this is
Shane Brown,
and
also with the NJHFA. Surprise.
We're here to demonstrate an issue regarding practice with Blossfechten. So Blossfechten is, in German, fencing with openings. Now, it oftentimes is translated as fencing unarmored or unarmored fencing. And we want to make the point that that's actually a really hurtful or harmful way to understand Blossfechten, because we're wearing armor. You can see we have gambesons on, and these gambesons or fencing jackets are cloth armor. So even if these were sharps and we struck to the cloth armor, it would take quite a bit to cut through that cloth. In fact, it most likely wouldn't happen to cut all the way through there and actually wound Shane in any way, or for him to wound me in any way. So to translate Blossfechten as unarmored fencing is actually very hurtful to our vision or understanding of what fencing Blossfechten actually is. So it's better to understand that, in fact, what I'm wearing is traditional Blossfechten armor. So I'm wearing the gambeson, and that's about it. We see plenty of images in the historical sources where they're not wearing anything protecting their face or the top of their head. They might actually have a cap, like a soft cloth cap on top of their head, and that will protect them from an errant blow, maybe with a fetter or a blunted blade. And we even have images of the use of sharp swords, which shows just how crazy they were back in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So one thing to understand is how effective this is at actually stopping a cut or preventing the other person from feeling a threat. So if Shane and I were to face off here in this accoutrement, essentially, if Shane's dressed the way that he's dressed and I'm dressed the way that I'm dressed, it should be very obvious how much of an advantage he has if we were to break out into a fight. He's essentially dressed up for armored fencing. And this is the key point, or one of the key points I want to stress. As soon as we start fencing, and we start throwing cuts at one another, as he gets to my head, I need to be very careful. Whereas Shane can take shots to the fencing mask because it's armor. It's true armor or metal armor. And so he doesn't have to feel that same threat that I feel. So to prove this point, what we're going to do is this. We're going to have Shane remove his mask, just so you can see this, a little demonstration. Now, as you saw, Shane was walking straight into me in that last exchange. I was more or less backing up because I had to, and he was being nice and controlled. But now, I'm just going to leverage my point towards his face. And so, Shane, I want you to react when you feel threatened. I'm going to start back here. Do you feel threatened?
Nope.
All right, so I'm going to walk slowly, and eventually he's going to interact with the sword when he feels threatened. And this is really key. We're going to do one more time. It seems obvious, but this point is so fundamental. As soon as he feels threatened, he's interacting with the sword. Now, if you can put your mask back on, we'll see that Shane's been fencing for many, many years, and he knows he's supposed to react. But when you feel threatened, I want you to really feel threatened. Yeah, it gets a lot closer. And he has all that protection if he didn't move. So if he doesn't move, and I did that, I just stuck him, you saw his head go back, he's okay. Now, if he were to remove his mask and we did the same experiment, he would be very angry with me because I just put my sword into his unprotected face. So the point of this is to recognize, look at all the equipment that we have on when we fence Blossfechten. We're fencing not unarmored fencing, but fencing with openings. The problem is Shane doesn't really have any openings, not obvious openings. He's essentially ready for Harnischfechten. And what I'm trying to argue is much of what we do is actually gear up for Harnischfechten and then try to fight Blossfechten. And that doesn't really work. So here's how we're going to understand our new paradigm for Blossfechten. So Shane's going to remove his gloves and his mask. And this is essentially a lot closer now to the traditional Blossfechten that we see in the manuals of the 15th and 16th centuries. So now, as we start to do a little bit of play, you're going to notice as he comes in, and I go in, there we go. Notice the ringing, the wrestling that engages quickly. This was unscripted, and it's slow because we're trying to demonstrate something, but we normally go slow when we play traditional Blossfechten. So what you want to do, if you want to explore traditional Blossfechten play, is gear up the way we've geared up. We also normally have safety glasses on in case there's an errant point that goes to the eye. We also will put mouth guards in and then do some play. Now Shane and I have been fencing for years, and sometimes we don't put those things on because we're very comfortable with one another. And I know how Shane fences, he knows how I fence, but most importantly, we trust one another in terms of control, that we can start to speed up a little bit, and we know that we are still safe, that there's still control involved. But this is essentially the Blossfechten context or paradigm that most resembles what we see in the historical manuals. And so this is something that we want to try to emulate. All right, so Shane and I are going to demonstrate some traditional Blossfechten free play. Notice we have safety glasses on. We're going to be using some mouth guards here. So none of this is scripted. You'll see that there's a lot of control in what we do. And you'll also see, I would imagine, it's going to enter into ring-in or wrestling quite a bit.
There's an acknowledgement of where the threats lie, because I'm obviously not going to complete a cut to Eric's head, right, or a thrust to his face, but especially in the experience of having fenced for some time, we both understand where a cut would have come through, where a thrust would have come through. So you'll see us stop and acknowledge an opening, even if the strike doesn't necessarily complete, so just be mindful of that. Yep, rush.
Oh, beautiful, that's over top.
Is that in?
No. No. Oh, beautiful, nice wrap.
Yeah. Catching it down. Underneath.
Right there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were wrestling there.
Yeah.
Oh. Nice Dirk wrestling. Yeah. Oh. Oh, right in there. Yeah, beautiful.
Control.
Yep. Yep.
Beautiful.
Oh, there it is. Right there. 2 more.
Oh.
Nothing there. Nothing there.
Oh, yep, all you, you're good.
Last one.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Awesome job. So you can see, while we're going, we're communicating with each other the whole time. And we are using some speed, but not as much as if we were fully geared up. And that's important because I can't. I don't want to hurt him. He doesn't want to hurt me. But we do want to use the art.
Yeah.
And that earnestness there is what drives us to, well, in one way, to practice our control, because it's vital here that we use control. And in 2, the art is what's going to protect us the whole time. And we have to recognize that. So, that's an example of traditional. You have some more to add?
No, all I was going to say was, as soon as you lose all that protection that the gear offers, you can no longer afford to be out of control, right? For your partner's sake too, but now there's that natural sense of self-preservation where if I'm throwing too hard and too fast and leaving myself open, rather than my mask getting hit, now my head's getting hit, right? So there's just this natural sense of, it's not slow for the sake of slow, it's more intentional.
Yes.
Right? And intentionally keeping your partner safe, but also just keeping yourself safe, right? You can't afford to be out of control. So the whole system of this style of Blossfechten just changes all the intention behind how you're throwing cuts and thrusts and how you're moving.
Good. So let me ask you, Shane, how are your hands?
Good.
You're fine?
Perfect.
My hands are also
Not a touch.
fine.
Not a touch, yeah.
One of the things you will find as you pull those big heavy gloves off is that you absolutely stop leading with your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're to get hit in the hands, obviously that would be devastating. We all use our hands to work. It's amazing how the art teaches us to lead with the sword as soon as this hand protection is gone. And that's really important to understand. It's why so many of the sources, say the Krumpau, for example, will describe how the Krumpau can be aimed at the hands because the hands are an opening, which again, Blossen, Blossfechten, fencing with openings. We have 2 primary openings here. One is Shane's head, the other one's his hands. Now, you'll notice some of the cuts we stopped, but you have to understand that if we get in this position here, and I did an Unterhau, this wasn't necessarily a cut. This was a thrust. And a gambeson or a doublet or a fencing jacket is not going to stop a thrust. So if I have my hands high and Shane goes low with one of those, is it a cut? Sure. Will a cut be very effective against a gambeson? Probably not. But look at the distance he's at. I'm not sure if you can see, but his point is right in my ribs. So this is either a cut or a thrust, depending on what he wants. That's why we're stopping it here. Because the thrust is going to pass right through the fencing jacket or the doublet or the gambeson. It's not necessarily just a cut. I wanted to explain that.
Yeah.
That nuanced understanding of what we were doing because that was important to see.
Yeah, for sure.